Hey, hello everybody, Disciple here with Overwatch Curios. So we recently did a video on some of the original Overwatch heroes that were displayed at a panel the team had back during BlizzCon of this year, and you guys seemed to enjoy it, so we are back with another one covering every hero that they went over during BlizzCon. Now if you guys happen to miss the first part and you want to check that out, here is a link below or somewhere on the screen. I don't know how YouTube works anymore. But anyway, let's dive into some more of Overwatch's removed heroes. Now, Rumble is a giant yellow ball of a mech who, on paper, seems like he could have eventually evolved into Bastion. With a deployable stationary shield and a siege mode, this fits accurately with the first version of Bastion in the game. At that point in time, he had a frontward-facing shield while in siege mode and was basically terrifying. There's also the case that the visual design of Rumble might have had some influence on that of Orisa. However, it's probably a bit of a gamble to have a mechanical character named Rumble when League of Legends is one of your major video game competitors. The next hero, Psyblade, is interesting because it shows that initially Blizzard had a lot of interest in developing melee heroes to fit within the game world. We covered about 3 or 4 of them in the last video, including how Mei used to even have an ice pick. Aesthetically, this character is a little more revealing than the roster of today. However, it's her abilities that are even more tantalizing to us. Super Punch and Shockwave sound like abilities that could have been used for, or at least become part of, Doomfist in some way or another. However, Backbreaker is this interesting element of what sounds like crowd control. Crowd control can be extremely powerful in Overwatch, as we've seen with things like Ana's Sleep Dart and McCree's Flashbang, so it's really interesting to think of what exactly this ability could have done in the game. I picture a suplex style ability where you slam the enemy into the ground or possibly grapple them from behind and squeeze them, stunning them in some way after the effect occurs or just doing a lot of damage. However, it does seem weird that a character named Psyblade would seem to have such a rough and tumble boxing or wrestling type kit. Now, Helio is yet another support who didn't see the light of day, but mechanically sounds like a fun and innovative support. He wields light maces, implying that he'd be a skirmisher type of support, being on the front lines with the tank and more aggressive DPS characters like flankers. Healing Light could very well have been an area of effect heal, something conal or forward casting that encourages him to be in the thick of things like we have with Moira now, while Protection could possibly provide an ally with a shield not unlike Zarya's Bubble or some version of Lucio's Sound Barrier. The concept of a melee support who benefits most from close quarters combat is something Blizzard has yet to explore, but it could make for a very engaging and unique experience for support players if we ever see it added, and having some sort of support tank hybrid could potentially be really cool. Now, without any additional context, it's hard to tell if Brit could have been the earliest iteration of D.Va. However, the early concept art that we've seen of D.Va varies pretty drastically from that of Brit, and it kind of eventually went towards this concept. What we do know is that Brit was the queen of mechs, specifically having abilities called Support Mech and Attack Mech. These were probably deployed into the battlefield while Brit herself remained playable, meaning she could have been an addition to the builder class that Blizzard has wanted to bring to life, but struggled with balancing issues in the way. Her weapon is listed as a pistol, which again gives credit to the idea of Brit possibly having been inspiration and a reference point for the development of D.Va down the road. And a character that can deploy mechs in battle is actually something that I really wanted Efi to be before they ended up announcing Orisa. While McCloud visually has no place in the world of Overwatch that we know of, he's yet another implementation of melee combat. Wielding a large two-handed sword and looking like a futuristic version of Braveheart, he moves around the battlefield quickly through the usage of Stampede, which could conceptually put enemies under the effects of crowd control in his wake in some way or another. His other ability, Only One, sounds like a passive or active ability that probably would have bolstered his defenses or his attack damage if maybe he was the only nearby ally. However, that's completely pure conjecture. Despite not fitting the theme of Overwatch now, since we know that virtually all of these heroes come from Titan, it's interesting to think of how he might have fit in with some of these other heroes inside of that world instead of ours. Either that, or as development continued on him, he turned into the one and only space cowboy McCree, which isn't too far from McCloud. The next hero bears a striking resemblance to Reinhardt and is likely the earliest form of him in the game. Both Shield and Charge are listed abilities for Troy, while his weapon is listed as a flail, which would fit equally as well with the Crusader image of Reinhardt today as we have with the hammer. In fact, it's rumored that at one point in time, the Blizzard team wanted Reinhardt to wield a flail instead of the hammer. The only clear visual difference between Troy and young Reinhardt is the visor that he wears over his eyes, but having another sort of Crusader-like tank with a different kind of abilities and maybe even longer range that the flail might give, especially if it were enhanced, would be really cool in comparison to Reinhardt, who is very, very close ranged. Now Hivemind, the next hero, draws some pretty strong parallels to the likes of Sombra. Disable and EMP Pulse are listed as two abilities, and it's not hard to think that Disable would later become the hack effect Sombra has in game today. However, Hivemind instead wields a lightning gun in combat, probably something more along the lines of Winston's Tesla cannon. Covered in heavy armor and a visor, the only question is whether or not Hivemind also had the ability to fly through the usage of some type of jetpack. This could make sense given the tubes running to the back of the armor. Flight is something Overwatch has explored little of, really only with Pharah and the new Mercy ultimate, so it's a likely design point for future characters added into the game, but at this point it's unlikely that Hivemind will ever see the light of day since Sombra came so close. It's also interesting to see that Overwatch really liked this theme of futuristic augmentation with tubes over people, as we've seen with quite a few of these cancelled heroes, and it's interesting to see them go to a lot more human designs like we have with Sombra, who's simply a hacker with a little bit of electronic augmentation. Now, Overwatch has definitely drawn a lot of inspiration from Team Fortress, and a lot of players have requested a counterpart to Mei, something akin to the Pyro from TF2, to be added to the game. And here we have Firestarter, another flame-wielding hero from these early concepts that could fit the bill. His weapon is a slag gun, which likely functions in a similar style as Torbjorn's or Roadhog's gun does today by firing projectiles of metal. However, Firestarter was also uniquely the first to have a proper grenade conceptualized in his Molotov. The Molotov is a staple of area control and damage, and grenades are a mechanic that Overwatch is pretty much lacking in, given their prevalence and frequent usage in a lot of other shooters. On top of that, he has an ability called Eruption, which could presumably summon a pool of lava or some explosion in a targeted area. Fire is a unique mechanic given its capability to deal damage over time or control areas, and is hopefully tied to a hero such as Firestarter in the future to help flesh out the roster of defensive heroes, which has seen 0 additions since the release of the game, unlike all the other roles. Now, Recluse is a hero that we get little actual information about from this brief snapshot. In fact, all we really know is her name and the fact that her weapon is simply called Mouthbeam. However, she's a hero that has been in multiple versions of early Overwatch art, meaning that in some way she made it way further in development than many of the other heroes depicted in this video. In fact, in some of the early promotional art, you can see her portrayed near the center, which gives us a better look at her actual design. You can clearly see the glowing effects of the mouth cannon, but also what looks like collapsible wings that could be deployed for some sort of flight as well. Given the amount of time invested into her concept, it'd be great to see her added down the road as a member of a criminal organization that wasn't Talon. Maybe something like the Los Muertos gang, which still lacks a full backstory in the world, despite hints at the importance of the gang in the game's lore and things such as Sombra's backstory and the Soldier 76 animated short Heroes. It's also possible that this hero was just simply drawn because it looked cool and it fit well into the early designs, and they wanted a couple easy heroes to fill out this roster on paper while actually developing real heroes in the background. Now, Luke is possibly the most interesting hero in all of these original concepts, and one of the most requested of all Blizzard employees according to Jeff Kaplan. Visually, he looks like a demonic-infused human wearing all black and covered in chains, but his kit is really what draws my attention to him. He swathes through the fields of inferior humans with a chain sword, probably something akin to the chainsaw of Gears of War. However, on top of that, he has an ability called Spawn Minions, which again fulfills that trope of the builder in the game, but more importantly creates a unique mechanic that hasn't been seen in Overwatch to this day. The ability to summon minions, whether or not they deal damage, has a lot of impact in the match. These minions could be used to absorb shots from enemies, or possibly even to contest a payload or objective. Now, of course, they'd probably need to have a very low health pool, but it's a very interesting mechanic that we'd love to see Blizzard pursue in the future. Now his final ability is called Flame Strike, and was likely some sort of empowered attack, once again centered around the element of fire, which Overwatch is currently lacking. It could have been a linear attack, a charge, or even just an empowered attack to the next hit with his chain sword. Now, it's probably not even fair to ask you all this after ending the video on Luke, but we've taken a look in these videos at some of the earliest heroes in Overwatch development that have since been removed. Now, out of all of those, which one would you most want to see added to the game? There's really only two acceptable answers here, but let's see what you all think anyway. And if you guys like the video, of course, I would love it if you might subscribe or even leave a like on the video, but regardless of whether or not you do, I will make more videos about Overwatch development in the future because I love it so damn much. I will see you guys next time. Peace.